So, Puro, I always have really interesting discussions with you because, we're so close to agreeing. And on most things, in a sort of pragmatic and practical way, I agree with you. Um, I will argue on your side all day against Gary's version of, in Mentam's version of objectivity. Um, but the reason we have interesting discussions is because we also, when it comes down to it, um, derive our philosophical understanding from different sources. And those sources are, well, I don't think they're in conflict really. I feel as if I understand where you're coming from, Piro, and I don't disagree with you. I just want to add something. So when you say we don't have direct perception of something, and that often our perception is mistaken, I agree with you, of course. There are plenty of examples in our day-to-day life where we mistake certain perceptions. And I think, as human beings, we're in fact more prone to these kinds of errors, more prone than other less conscious, less biologically and cognitively complex forms of life. We're more prone to error because we're open to more degrees of freedom. We're capable of recognizing and conceptualizing more possibilities. So there's more space for play in our perceptual experience. We don't just see what's there and respond instinctually. We try to interpret. And interpretation is always a form of erring, a form of wandering and discovering something that you wouldn't have seen at first had you responded immediately. But upon reflection, on perception, we're able to discover new truths about what it is that we're seeing or perceiving. And I think that's basically how science works, right? It's reflection, theorizing, based upon experimental, um, experience. And we're constantly checking our ideas and the conceptions we build with that experience, discarding those models which don't hold up in light of experience. And I think experience is really the final arbiter, um, which is where you and I really agree, Piro. Now, where I would say that we do have a kind of immediate experience of something real is not in regards to the finite particular uh, situations that we may try to describe and then later come to discover we described poorly. Um, what we have an immediate experience of is God, or is the transcendent. Because, rather than say that what we experience is a kind of Maya, a kind of perceptual illusion constructed by our arbitrarily evolved sensory organs. Um, I would want to say that our most basic form of experience is that of matter itself. We are made of matter, we are material beings, and the matter which is in our bodies isn't behaving in an exceptionary or in a special way. It's not, the physical laws are not broken inside of our bodies, and so we have to hold our bodies to the same sorts of expectations that we hold the rest of the physical world to. But this goes in reverse too. If our bodies as material systems behave as they do, then matter must also have similar characteristics, matter in general. Um, which is why I kind of take on this pan-experientialist ontology, where um, causality, rather than being the exchange of an effect, E-F-F-E-C-T. Causality, if matter is at its root experiential, causality is about affect, A-F-F-E-C-T. It's about the exchange of sort of this emotional energy. It's energy as dynamic feeling, and when one billiard ball hits another, the reality of causality is in the exchange of the feeling of the force between these two objects. And being punched in the nose, I say, is an immediate perception of or experience of the reality of causation as sort of a rejoinder to Hume's denial of any evidence for causality in our experience. Being punched in the nose is evidence, I would suggest, because causality is about effect, about receiving the feeling of the past. And then there are other kinds of causality. I mean, this is the efficient causality, feeling the past. And then a final causality would be anticipating the future, yearning for certain possibilities to be actualized over others. And every moment of our experience, I think, is both a memory of the entire past of the universe relevant to our particular occasion of experience, as well as an anticipation of all the futures which remain possible given that past. So every moment of experience is that, what Whitehead calls a concrescence of past, already actual moments of existence, which you could say that's the material world, unified with its polar relation, which is the future worlds which remain possible. We could call that mind. So mind is anticipating what remains possible given matter, which is all the past, all the actual events which have already taken place and cannot be changed. So what we do directly experience is the past inheritance of actuality as relevant to our own bodily existence. And this is a kind of non-dualist ontology. When I try to stop and ask, what is it that I'm really aware of right now? I have to temporalize that awareness. I'm not just aware of my brain as it is simply located here, because I have to include in my awareness what has made that awareness as this brain possible, which is a billion-year evolutionary history, which is not only a history of the biosphere's evolution on planet Earth, but of all of the elements' evolution within the bodies of stellar nebula. All of that is involved in and sort of a component of the very stuff of my memory, which provides for my ability to interact with the world now in a meaningful way, trying to bring about certain futures. So, I would call myself a sort of realist and not an epistemological skeptic in the sense that you are, Piro, because I'm not trying to have true knowledge of a world as a sort of representational picture of it, a sort of model that corresponds exactly to that world. I don't want that sort of an abstractly cognitive true knowledge of reality itself. So that sort of direct perception, that sort of true knowledge, I don't think is possible. My truth is a kind of participation in the real and a becoming with the real, rather than an attempt to mirror the real as some static, already given external reality. I don't think there is an external reality, nor is there an internal. I wouldn't want to make that dichotomy